This is my Module 3 discussion-based assignment. So the Constitution has guided the United States for more than 2 centuries, but many of its most important ideas were written in a broad, open-ended language. Because of this, interpreting certain amendments has been very controversial. The Bill of Rights uses terms like unreasonable, due process, and cruel and unusual, all of which require judgment. As society changes, courts decide how these principles apply to the new circumstances. Digital privacy, police tactics, and social issues the framers could never have predicted. Disagreement naturally follows. For example, the Second Amendment. Its reference to well-regulated militia has produced decades of debate over whether it protects individual gun ownership, or militia service, or both. Similarly, the First Amendment protection is of expressive freedom raises difficult questions about hate speech, campaign finance, and expression on social media. Anytime a constitutional phrase is open to interpretations, Americans are more likely to disagree about what it means, and those disagreements shape major political and legal battles. The Civil Rights Movement is a clear example of how different branches of government use their powers, sometimes together, sometimes in conflict, to expand equality. The courts played a critical role in dismantling segregation and invalidating laws that violated equal protection. The Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus the Board of Education ended legal segregation in public schools and provided constitutional grounding for further civil rights litigation. Congress used its legislative authority to transform these legal victories into nationwide protections. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 outlawed discrimination in employment, education, and public accommodations, while the Voting Rights Act of 1965 targeted racial discrimination in voting practices, and the executive branch enforced these laws and often used federal power to protect these practices. Presidents sent federal troops to enforce school desegregation orders, issued executive orders banning discrimination in federal workplaces and contractors, and used the Justice Department to pursue civil rights cases. The combined actions of the courts, Congress, and the executive branch created lasting and enforceable protections that reshaped American society. Understanding these developments requires distinguishing between civil rights and civil liberties. Civil liberties are protections from the government's actions. These include freedom of speech, religion, and protections against unreasonable search and seizure. They ensure that the government cannot interfere with fundamental personal freedoms. Civil rights, by contrast, are protections against discrimination by government and private actors. Civil rights laws ensure that individuals are treated equally, regardless of race, gender, disability, or other characteristics. In short, civil liberties limit what the government can do to individuals, while civil rights require the government to ensure equal treatment. Both are essential, but they protect different aspects of individual freedom. Another area where constitutional interpretation has significantly evolved is the rights of the accused. For much of American history, criminal suspects had few meaningful protections in practice, even though the Constitution included several safeguards. Supreme Court decisions in the 1950s and 60s expanded and clarified these protections. Mapp versus Ohio required states to follow the exclusionary rule, meaning illegally obtained evidence cannot be used in court. Gideon versus Wainwright guaranteed that the right to an attorney for defendants who cannot afford one. Miranda versus Arizona required police to inform suspects of their rights to remain silent and to have the counsel present during interrogation. Together, these decisions strengthened due process, protected individuals from coercive police practices, and ensured that guilt must be proven through law, reliable practices, and true evidence. They transformed the criminal justice system process into one that better aligns with constitutional promise of fairness. Some of the most intense constitutional controversies in modern history have involved the right to privacy, particularly in issues relating to abortion and same-sex relationships. The Constitution does not explicitly use the word privacy yet in the Supreme Court has found that certain amendments imply a zone of personal autonomy. And Roe v. Wade, the court upheld that this implied the right to protected access to abortion, Later cases expanded on the same concept of privacy, include consensual adult relationships, eventually same-sex marriages. Opponents argued that the courts created rights not explicitly written in the Constitution and removed these issues from democratic debate. Supporters argued that the privacy is inherent to liberty and the government should not control decisions involving bodily autonomy, family life, or intimate relationships. The tensions between these the tension between these viewpoints remains one of the most polarizing issues in American law. The court's recent decisions, including overturning Roe, have intensified the national debate by returning abortion regulation to the states and raising questions about future of privacy-based rights. Taken together, these controversies highlight the central feature of American constitutionalism. The Constitution endures, but it is both stable and adaptable. Its broad principles require interpretation, and that interpretation evolves as society changes. The civil rights movement showed how each branch of government can work to expand equality and protect fundamental fairness. Debates over civil rights, civil liberties, and privacy demonstrate that Americans continue to negotiate the balance between individual freedoms and government power and social values. The Supreme Court decisions on the rights of the accused illustrate how legal interpretations can transform everyday experiences with the justice system. The United States continues to confront questions that the framers could not have imagined, but the constitutional framework they designed guides each generation through these challenges. The controversies that arise are not signs of weakness. They are evidence that the living constitutional tradition, one that responds to the changing conditions while remaining rooted in enduring principles of liberty, equality, and justice.